literally magical, and it can do 80% of all the marketing and copywriting lifting if you do it properly, to me. So don't just ask random questions like drop-down boxes, tick boxes. Never start a question with why. Always has that level and element of judgment there. So that your messaging will constantly have to shift as well. So what might have worked for you 3 years ago potentially doesn't work right now. So it's super important to not treat audience research as a one-off exercise.
So welcome to a new episode of Seriously in Business. So I have the honor of sitting down with the wonderful Nadine from Can Do Content today. Nadine is a copywriter. If you don't know what copywriting is, we're going to go more into that. But what we're going to chat about is all about what you need to think about before you start writing any of your own business's copy. So whether you're writing Instagram captions or whether you're writing sales page information or website text or email sequences, all of those fancy things, before you start writing any of those things, Nadine has some incredible things to share with you. It's so practical and so pivotal to the success of writing any of this copy. So I can't wait to share this episode with you. But before I do, I wanted to read out Nadine's official bio so you can get to know her a little bit more. So Nadine Nethery is the founder of Can Do Content and strategic website and email copywriter for female founders who want to intentionally attract, delight, and retain their dream customers. Her strategic take on audience research and copy turns every brand touchpoint into genuine connections that drive sales, celebrate loyalty, and surround you with keen business and brand advocates who happily spread the word for you. Over the past 6+ years, Nadine has given global e-commerce success stories, game-changing startups, and industry-disrupting service providers the words to shine and strategies to build a sustainable business for the long term. So let's sit down and enjoy an incredible episode with Nadine. All right. So welcome, Nadine. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you.
Hey, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me. Such an exciting chat.
I'm looking forward to it already. And I know, so for those of you who don't know, Nadine is actually my copywriter, and we worked together for the first time in your work together for a day. I forget, you have a cool name for it.
Yeah, yours for a day.
Yeah, that's it. I tried so hard to make sure I didn't copy that when I introduced a DIY design for a day. I was like, no, I won't do yours for a day because that's hers, but it's great. And yeah, you were just incredible. And I just want to get all of your brain knowledge and awesomeness and business coolness into the podcast, into this video, to help people to get to learn some cool things and get to know you as well. Aww. So to get started, I know, right? Jackie, give a compliment. I'm not very good at them.
No, you did well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit about what your ultimate day in business would look like? Especially, I know you and I, we both work from home, doing the thing. What does an ultimate day of yours look like running a business?
Ultimate day probably would have to be a yours for a day session. Sounds sad, but I do love how efficient it is and how accomplished I feel at the end, because, within 7 hours, you get to smash out something that's been, brewing up in my mind for a good week and a half by the time I chat to my clients. And I love that feeling of actually hitting send and then receiving the feedback straight away, because people are just blown away by what's possible. And it just means I immerse myself into a brand completely for a day. And it's just so incredible how it all comes together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw when you did mine though, you can tell you're done at the end of that day. You've just given your all and you're just a little bit cactus at the end. You're like, ugh.
Yeah. It's like talking's hard because it's all literally in a Google Doc that's landed in your inbox. And a video walkthrough that doesn't make much sense because I can't talk anymore. But
it did make sense.
Yeah.
So beyond, say you get to work at you sit at your desk at 9 o'clock or whenever you decide to. What does your full day around that yours for a day look like?
Yes, I start pretty early once my kids are in before school care, because I'm very strategic around the days that I offer that service.
Yeah. What time is that?
They get dropped off at about 7:30, which then means I am absolutely done by the time they come back home from school. So I do that twice a week, which gives me potentially up to 2 days a week that I can offer that service. And it starts early and little break in the middle, coffee, fuel in the middle of the day, a little bit of snack. But it's, very, very strategic and efficient. So I take the brief and the strategy session that we had beforehand, and then get stuck into my SEO bits and pieces, set all that up, the structure, and then, write for the rest of that time, and also share the Google Doc, as you know. So it's a bit of back and forth as well with the client during the day, who can then tweak things and give me a thumbs up, or can we quickly change this, add something in. So it's, super efficient, super rewarding, to have those little messages, little comments pop up with a thumbs up or love it. So, love working that way.
Is like, I just love the feedback of, oh, you made something that I couldn't do and I really love it.
Exactly. So good.
Yeah. That way. And so then after you finish that, like what time you finish at the end of the day, then are you a dinner cooker? Or are you a hang out with the kids on a swing kind of gal? Like what does life look like for you after work?
On those days, my slow cooker is always hard at work, doing the work for me. So literally once the kids come home, I do not much at all because, as you said, I'm mentally done and like to enjoy the rest of the day with my puppy and the kids and, doing family things as we do as business owning mums, right?
Yeah, trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
I love you got the slow cooker going. That's so strategic. Like we just need to be so clever in so many different areas of our life to kind of make it all weave together so everything just clicks. You know?
Yeah. And it's probably the German in me too, that efficiency. I just can't switch it off. But yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's a very helpful trait to have. So look, lean into it.
Yeah.
And so have you always wanted to start your own business?
No, far from it. I actually have always had in mind to have a career in corporate, as you do, and did my marketing studies and then started working in PR and corporate comms for Volkswagen in Australia in the PR department, and tried to work my way up, but male-dominated industry. Plus being young and naive, so early 20s, I don't know, I was working hard, thinking there's that promotion looming, and nothing ever really eventuated, and then eventually got made redundant, which really was a blessing in disguise, because that made me reconsider and, sort of made me feel like I never want to be a number in a, employment file in a corporate business again. So started investigating what else I could do apart from finding another full-time job. At that time as well, I had 2 kids. So it was the whole, is full-time work what I want to do? Is it going to work with, having 2 kids and being able to pick them up from school and do things with them rather than just coming home at night when it's bedtime. So, that took a little while. I took another full-time job in the meantime as well, because you have to pay bills, right? But then eventually stumbled on content marketing, when social media was huge, Instagram still had organic reach, and companies were doing really well on social media. So I really, got interested in that and took some studies in that as well, content marketing. And part of that was a module in copywriting. And I went, oh, hang on, copywriting, people pay people to write their copy and their words. And I've always really loved languages and writing, and obviously part of a corporate gig in corporate communications. So just investigated that, and then genuinely considered whether that was a viable option, and just launched my social media handle, put a few posts out, and I don't know how, but I found some clients on the side. So while at that time being pregnant with number 3, working a full-time gig, I just took on anything I could, doing everything for everyone at that time. So social media posts, blog copy, and then went on mat leave and went, you know what, I really enjoy working with mostly female-based businesses at that time. Just organically happened, and I just kept doing it while on mat leave, and got more and more clients, refine more what I was going to do and what I loved. So website and email copy. And then took the plunge in late 2020 when I officially quit my corporate gig and went, you know what, the worst thing that can happen is I just find something else. And I've actually never looked back. I've got so many incredible female clients who are in it with heart and soul, and I get to support them like you on their business journey. And what I love about it is that I have actual impact on businesses. I'm not just going to work 9 to 5 to tick a box and deliver something for my boss who's then getting the praise for it and the, you know, the results and the pay increases. I actually work for myself to support incredible business owners. And I actually love going to work every day now, which is incredible. It doesn't actually feel like work. So yeah, that's so my cool story. Yeah, stumbled into it. But I think that's most copywriters. We sort of discover it on the side and then go, oh. So yeah, it took a lot of work. So I took tons of courses and copywriting courses to get my skills, you know, up to scratch. But yeah, it doesn't feel like work when you do something that you love.
No, it can be pretty cool. That was going to be one of my questions is how do you actually study copywriting? Because like I haven't seen it as like a university course, be a copywriter. And like I was talking to a friend of mine, I think she's a really great writer and I feel like she'd be a really great copywriter. And I was like, oh, you should look into that. I was like, I have no idea where to direct you. I have never thought. And like, so I guess could you answer what on earth is copywriting? And then, yeah, what that all looks like?
Yeah, so copywriting, I like to classify as, you know, taking your thoughts. So bundling up everything that is incredible about you, your brand, your product, and then tailoring it into messaging that speaks to the benefit and the transformation that you're providing to your customer. So bundling up into words that really resonate with your audience. Sounds easy, but it's a fine art form. And especially nowadays where, you know, we all know those marketing gurus, the fake scarcity, FOMO, all the sleazy, awful tactics that are out there. So there's a real responsibility that comes with copywriting that doesn't resort to pushy tactics, but instead really taps into into the decision-making process of your audience and empowering your audience to decide for themselves whether this product is for them, whether this product can help them, and whether it is actually going to get them the outcomes that they're looking for.
Yeah, that's great. I love that word, empowering your audience to make those decisions rather than like there's a fine line between pressuring them to do something and then being like, no, here's all the information you need. And like, yes, there are only 100 places, so probably be one of them, but I'm not infinite. I'm not going to tell you there's one place when there's actually 20 left, or all of those different kind of cheeky things that people can do. Yeah. And so you said you did lots of like courses. Were they like all online kind of courses?
So I did copy school, which tends to be where most copywriters start. So, you know, very honed into the strategies and the techniques of copywriting. But I found learning from experts, so copywriters that are probably, you know, a little bit ahead of you in the game made all the difference for me. So I took some e-commerce, email copywriting course as well with someone who is at the top of her game. Also, Kirsty Fanton she's like amazing copywriter, and she runs Brain Camp, it's called, which is all around the consumer psychology and how you can, as I mentioned before, really empower your reader to decide for themselves. So leading with empathy rather than that pushy, salesy copy that people unfortunately so often resort to. So they were probably the two standout courses that I did that have really made all the difference to my copywriting and to my approach.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Thank you for sharing those little insights. And so I'm looking frozen on my screen. Hopefully I'm not too bad.
No, all good. All good.
Okay, good. Now, before we get into a couple of questions, particularly around what we need to think about before we start copywriting, there's a new kid on the block called AI and like Chat GPT and stuff. I would love to just gain your opinions, especially from a copywriter's perspective, on programs like that. For those of you who don't know what ChatGPT is, it's pretty much, I'm going to butcher this explanation, but this idea that it's kind of like artificial intelligence. You can kind of put in a prompt and it will kind of like, you could literally say, write me an Instagram post about how to water trees, and it would craft an Instagram post about how to water trees, kind of from all of its learned information from everywhere. And it's quite incredible. How it kind of does it. That makes no sense to my untechnological brain. But yeah, as a copywriter, obviously it's writing copy for people. What do you feel about that kind of technology?
Yeah, it's quite incredible. Oh, I'm breaking up. It's quite incredible when you look at it at first glance. I have to admit, I actually had to play around with it the other day, just trying to see how good it is at writing email copy for me, just out of curiosity. And on the surface, it all looks good. It comes up with nicely structured emails, but the problem is it is very clinical. So it is in no shape or form in line with your tone of voice, because obviously you can't read that. It also is lacking complete empathy. So it's very robotic, in line with those sales tactics and marketing tactics that I was referring to before. So, speaking to objections and all those things without personality. And what I think ultimately people are going to play around with it. Some may fail miserably because their readers aren't stupid. They're going to pick up that it's computer generated. And ultimately, yeah, it is not going to replace copywriters, simply because we come from that human angle. So if done right, copy is not just a string of words. It is actually tapping into your audience and how your audience speaks, also into you and your brand and how you communicate. And I don't think AI is ever going to be able to marry those two together successfully without looking computer generated. So copywriters, the good ones, the ones that do all the research and the strategy piece beforehand, are still going to have a job, and they're still going to add value and benefit to clients as well. But I invite everyone to have a play around with it, because it is quite impressive, and it might actually help you generate ideas for content. So if you're looking for blog posts, for example, social media content topics, that might be a good starting point. I just wouldn't resort to it to write a complete email from scratch for you and copy and pasting it into your email system.
Yep, absolutely. But there's always a place for people. And yeah, as you say, like it's got its place for generating ideas. And sometimes I pop in some text and ask it to summarize it for me. Then I'm like, oh, make the voice a bit playful so it's not just robotic. And then still after that, it's still not me, or it's still missing some parts. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense, or no, but it's like, it's given me something to start with. And so, but at the same time, like I would hire you over that any day of the week. And then again and again. So it's like, it's got some cool points, but yeah, as you say, there's nothing that's going to replace those great copywriters that do that genuine work. Right. So since you're such an expert at copywriting, I would love to ask you, what are some things we probably need to think about, especially, I guess, if we're going to start writing our copy, if we're going to we don't get you to do everything for us, what are some things we need to think about before we even put finger to keyboard?
Yeah, good question. Love it. Very important before writing copy, because despite what people think, copywriting isn't this creative thing where I sit down and I go, da-da-da, come to me. It is very strategic. So before you start writing, you need to do one thing, really, really hone in on your audience and your dream customer, the person who is perfectly positioned to buy your thing, book your services, work with you, because you can get them the ultimate outcome that they're hoping for. So I totally recommend, taking that step back and actually talking to your customer. If you don't have any customers yet, which so often is the problem at the beginning of the business journey, you might think you don't have anyone to talk to, no one to tap into, you just get started. You can still tap into that ideal customer. So just have a think about where they might be hanging out. So potentially Facebook groups, Facebook communities, even Slack communities that they might be hanging out in and might be having ideal conversations to listen into. So listen into the words they're using, make note of the objections that they're having around your service and your offer potentially, the problems that they're having. So what is keeping them up at night? What problem are they trying to solve? And ultimately as well, the desires. So what would be the dream solution? What would make their life so much easier? And if you listen to that language that they're using, you are able to really tap into the messaging that is going to resonate with them. You can lead with empathy because you actually understand what's going on in their mind, and you do it so well. When we worked together, you had so many survey responses, and you actually take the time to get to know your clients and your students, which was so beneficial for actually writing the copy. So it meant you could speak to your dream customer. You could tell them whether your solution is for them or whether it's not. And you could actually include testimonials as well and reviews that are so important to share the outcomes and share the transformation so people can come on that journey with you and they can picture themselves at the other end, where they want to be.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think often, like I think when we go to write our own copy, we're like, I know my audience, I can do this, but we don't actually stop to get to know our audience, and we kind of make assumptions which may or may not be correct. And so that idea of actually asking them or actually looking at what they're saying. And I love that idea of even just going into Facebook groups. I remember I watched something that you presented inside one of your courses of like, you just went onto like Google reviews and just looked up the reviews, and you made a note of even saying like, don't always look at the best reviews, look at the best reviews, like the 4 stars and the 3 stars, because they're going to say what maybe if there was an issue in it, then you can fight those objections on your sales pages. And I'm like, there's so much to be thinking about more intricately. And for those listening, if you want to see the kind of work that Nadine can do, head to my website, DIY.designmybiz.com, and pretty much that whole long, massive sales page is Nadine's work from our yours for a day session. But it's that idea that you could just take those survey responses and looking into my Facebook group and looking in a few different areas, we're like, this is what their real problems are, and this is what they're actually wanting, rather than just like my clients don't. Like some of the time they want a bit like to get good design, but other times they just actually want to have a successful business so that they can spend more time with their family. And so getting deeper into what people are after rather than just learn how to be good on Canva.
Yeah. And it's going to get you those tangible transformations and the tangible things and outcomes that are so important, because we all, as you said, you want more time, more freedom. It's all fluffy. And it doesn't mean anything to anyone. It's so generic. Whereas if you say, you want to be able to pick the kids up from school, you want to be able to, close the laptop at 5 p.m. because, that's what you want. So it's getting really granular and using those insights that you can collect directly from your audience, and all the time that you're going to invest compiling that intel, the objections, the transformation, the pain points, the desires, is you'll save down the track when you write your copy. Plus, it can help you shape new offers, come up with topics for your marketing. It does all the heavy lifting for you, and it means you can show up with clarity and do everything so much quicker because it's ingrained in how you show up.
Yeah, that's so good. And like exactly, I've got a perfect example of what you just said of just it gives you ideas for new like products or even names of offerings. So this podcast I've just renamed to be called Seriously in Business because a few probably a year ago now, I asked people, I said to my Instagram, hey, I just really want to talk to people who are business owners, kind of doing their own graphics. Can we book a call? And so I had like 20 people book a little 15-minute session with me, or even 5, I can't remember how long it was, 15-minute session with me. And I just had a set of questions I would ask them. I just took a heap of notes while they were talking. And one of them said this phrase of, I want to have a really great looking business so that I look seriously in business. And I was like, oh, I connect with that so much. That's like the heart of what I'm doing. And she just put words to what my heart was. And obviously it was what she was resonating with too. So I was like, it's matching, it's crossing all these boxes, and just became this like mini anthem of why I run my business. And I would never have found that or thought of that phrase unless that one person on that one Zoom research call said it.
Yeah, so true. And the amount of times I've had projects where the tagline or a sub-tagline actually was a copy-paste job from a survey that we ran or a customer interview that we had. It is incredible because, you know, we're so close to our businesses, and, you know, I'm not my client's perfect customer avatar all the time. So I have to come in and work my way into the brand, and who can do it better than the actual customers to, you know, share what's glorious about the brand and why they're coming to the brand. It's literally magical, and it can do 80% of all the marketing and copywriting lifting if you do it properly.
Is there any tips that you would give us to doing it properly? Is there something that we may not have thought about other than the obvious?
Yeah, I'm a strategic copywriter, so do it strategically. Comes naturally to me. So don't just ask random questions like drop-down boxes, tick boxes. Very tempting to fall.
You were like, I mean, that's okay, but
yeah.
And I was trying to make it easy for my audience to sort of do it like yes or no, or this and this. And then you're like, I mean, that's okay, but you're not getting their language.
Exactly. And often you're preempting what you assume to be right. So it's again going back to you thinking to know the answers. So it is all going back to you giving them selections from your presumptions. So yeah, very strategic. So stay clear of drop downs and tick boxes, and instead give them open-ended questions. Might seem a turn off for customers to complete it, but you'd be surprised with a little incentive, even little gift card or something you might give away among everyone who answers. People are totally happy to comply if you keep it to, let's say, 10 questions max. That's what I try to keep it to. But yeah, open-ended questions that also stay clear of making assumptions or feeling judgmental. So never start a question with why. Always has that level and element of judgment there. So instead go, you know, can you elaborate on the reasons behind, rather than, you know, why did you decide against purchasing from me? So little tweaks like that are super intentional. And then, yeah, organize your insights. So don't just send out a survey and skim over it. Actually organize them into buckets, I like to call them. So I start every client project like that. I actually take the intel and sort it into pain points, desires, objections, and also false beliefs. They're super powerful as well. And then if you regularly send out surveys, so every 3 months, let's say you've got a course, so after every intake you survey your customers. Let's say you're a service-based business owner, so ask every client and on the offboarding journey, you know, about their experience, and then you sit down regularly, sift through it all, analyze it all, and add to that spreadsheet continuously. That helps you, yeah, organize your content marketing strategy for the coming launch, or, you know, the next 90 days, and it keeps your intel fresh as well. So really stay on top of your intel. And unfortunately, with pandemics and recessions, things like that, your messaging will constantly have to shift as well. So what might have worked for you 3 years ago potentially doesn't work right now. So it's super important to not treat audience research as a one-off exercise. And yeah, continuously do it as you have a new course intake, as you shift your business model, as you pivot into a new niche as well. So it's super important to have fresh intel and then incorporate that into your copy as you go along.
Yeah, and it can be such a valuable toolkit once we do that hard work. And like, it is another thing to add to the business list, but I think it's like that dude on Atomic Habits is like, pair a habit with another habit. And so we can just pair this asking for this survey with when we send our client, thank you for working with me. Can you fill out this survey? And then
exactly.
send that survey back, then just quickly pop it into its buckets and you're all good. How do you do the buckets? So do you have, so you have like a spreadsheet that has like 4 columns of like objections and the other 3 things that you mentioned?
Yeah, it's literally very simple Google Sheet, and I keep adding to it and then highlighting certain themes that I pick up, so certain words that pop up again and again. And I've also forgot to mention that one, sticky terms. I've got a column where, you know, you mentioned taglines and podcast titles, those things that are just genius and that you can copy paste into headlines, taglines, titles. So that's all it is. And as you said, a lot of the things you can automate. So if you have a course, I'm sure you've got an automated email sequence once, students enroll, and once the enrollment period, the course is over, you can automate all that. So you send out an automated survey and then get notified when there's a response coming in. Same for your customer journey. So I, as you know, have automated processes. So I have certain intake questions that I ask you to get intel on the expectations for our project as well. So I can then tick those off down the track to see whether, you know, I actually delivered on those. And I also get intel for it, like front of mind. So as you sign up to my services, your expectations are likely going to be different than if I asked you 3 months down the track. So you probably can't remember that fresh feeling of being stuck with your copy and actually looking for a copywriter. So it's super important to ask the questions at the right time, automate it, so you literally don't have to lift a finger and it happens in the background.
A pre-survey is such a good idea, because you're right. Like, I have no idea how I was feeling before I started working with you, only after, but I remember feeling really strong feelings. Like, I was literally lying in bed one night being like, nah, I really want to hire someone. Oh, I saw Nadine do something. She looks pretty cool. I like her photos. Let's go with her. Cool. And then, but it's kind of, those feelings, I don't remember much more than that. And so, but when you would have asked me those before we started working together, then they would have been fresh in my mind because I didn't have the solution yet.
Exactly. Yeah. And it doesn't have to add a lot of time to your processes as well. So I just set time aside once a month to go through any surveys from customers that I've received, any intake forms, and it's literally a copy paste job to add to my spreadsheet. And then anything that stands out in terms of, oh my God, never thought of it, I need to incorporate that in the copy on my website, I just note it down, add it to my to-do list, and then tackle it as, you know, as I find time. So it's just getting into a habit of actually having the conversations and listening to your audience that can make all the difference to your copywriting and how you show up.
Yeah, such practical advice. And yeah, as you say, like, it just makes the actual copywriting process when you get there far less daunting. And like, you could literally just start with the sticky words you pasted down from cool things your surveys have said, and like, oh, I've got half these here. Oh, I've already got all the objections, and you can just write a whole paragraph of fighting objections, and then next minute half your copy is written, and you know that it's going to resonate with your audience because it's from.
Exactly. And it just takes the guesswork out of copy that so often happens when you're the business owner and you're just too close to your business. You know, you just start typing and you have voids on your website to fill or emails to write. It's literally having a list of ideas and a structure that you can work within, because your audience has basically done the work for you.
So clever. So clever. Amazing. Okay. Thank you, Nadine. That's been very eye-opening and very motivating. If we want to stay in touch with your world and get to know you more or learn from you more, how can we do that?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Can Do Content. You can also hop over to my website where you can find a whole bunch of free resources, and particularly an over-the-shoulder tutorial which is actually taking you behind the scenes and shows you how I work. So a real client project that I take from that research phase, the audience intel gathering stage, through to actual website copy. So I show you the whole process, and it's likely going to blow your mind. So yeah, all free over the website. And yeah, sign up if you like.
I'll pop those links next to wherever you're watching or listening to this. And yeah, like imagine watching her go through like actually collating some of this stuff. So I think that would be definitely worth a watch if you're wanting to implement this for yourself or you're wanting to hire Nadine one day. Yeah, that can be really interesting watch. Thank you for making that for people. That's really generous of you.
No, I always find people are so overwhelmed by the process, and I know that not everyone has got a budget to outsource, and I just want to make it easier for everyone to get started to actually write their copy, because it doesn't have to be daunting and overwhelming. And once it all clicks into place and you know how to do it, it makes it so much easier to even DIY your copy.
So true. Well, thank you for joining us today and sharing all your wonderful nuggets of wisdom. Hopefully we can see you again one day. And in the meantime, I know we'll be connecting on Instagram.
Yay.